In the 6th century before the Common Era, the Gangetic heartland changes shape. New fields spread, a rigid social order hardens, status assigned by birth.
Trade expands, coins circulate, new wealth forms, yet spiritual answers remain locked behind old gates.
Tradition places the birth of Siddhartha Gautama in Lumbini, born into privilege, yet destined to face the same human limits as everyone else.
His father, Suddhodana, shields the prince, hoping to shape him into a ruler, not a renunciant. He enters the life expected of him. Yet duty cannot extinguish the questions rising beneath comfort.
Then, the world breaks through the palace walls. First, old age, the body weakened beyond negotiation.
Second, sickness. Pain arrives without invitation. Even wealth cannot command it to leave.
Third, death, the final certainty. The one boundary every life meets, sooner or later.
And fourth, an ascetic, a human being who has chosen hardship, searching for a way beyond suffering.
At 29, he leaves. Not in anger, yet with irreversible resolve. He discards symbols of status. The search is no longer royal. It is human. He studies with teachers of the forest. He learns discipline, but the answer remains out of reach. He studies with teachers of the forest. He learns discipline, but the answer remains out of reach.
He pushes the body toward breaking, testing whether suffering can end suffering. Then he turns, not back to luxury, away from extremes. A middle path takes shape. At 35, beneath a tree, he holds his mind steady. The night deepens, and something opens. At dawn, he awakens, not to magic, but to clarity. The Buddha is born from a human mind.
He does not keep the insight for himself. He walks toward others, toward the suffering world.
Here, he speaks of suffering, its cause, its ending, and a path disciplined enough to be lived. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration.
Rulers come to listen, not because the Buddha promises power, because he speaks to fear, loss, and meaning.
A community forms, open in principle to many, bound by discipline, simplicity, and restraint. Women, too, seek liberation. Their entry reshapes the moral landscape of the time. In the end, the teacher also meets the law he taught: impermanence. In Republican states, the message travels fast, carried not by armies, but by conversation. During the reigns, they stay. Teachings settle into memory, repeated, debated, preserved by disciplined recitation. He is gone, but the words remain, carried by memory, and by those who refuse to let them disappear.
Soon after, the first council gathers. The teachings are spoken aloud, organized, guarded, and memorized.
Before ink, there is discipline. Before books, there is breath, measured, repeated, exact.
A century later, disagreements rise, not over faith alone, but over how a community should live. Power consolidates, cities expand, and the faith now shares space with empires. Kalinga reveals what conquest truly buys: grief, emptiness, and the echo of cries that do not fade. Ashoka turns, away from the sword as the final answer. He searches for a rule that can restrain violence. He speaks through stone, public words meant to outlast a single reign. A third council strengthens the order, and the mission expands beyond the subcontinent. Across the sea, emissaries carry the teaching, without armies, without tribute, only discipline and speech.
In a new land, the doctrine meets new traditions and begins to take root.
A sapling follows, a living symbol carried by a nun whose courage is as historical as any king's.
A tree is planted. Memory becomes landscape, and a local tradition gains a global future.
Back in India, monuments rise, not as palaces, but as public spaces of reflection and community.
Along trade routes, ideas travel beside salt, silk, and spice.
Art adapts to place. In Gandhara, stone learns new shapes, yet the human face remains the center of devotion.
Under Kushan power, patronage returns. The doctrine is debated, expanded, and carried deeper into Asia. A fourth council, remembered as a turning point, frames new interpretations that will reshape Buddhist history.
Devotion grows. For many, the Buddha becomes not only teacher, but a focus of faith and hope.
In the South, older discipline remains strong, guarded by communities who keep the early spirit close.
In some regions, practice becomes more elaborate. Ritual, mantra, and specialized knowledge shaping a new path.
Learning centers rise, Nalanda among them, where philosophy is argued, preserved, and refined across generations.
Pilgrims cross continents for knowledge. Xuanzang arrives, hungry not for conquest, but for understanding.
The spoken word becomes written record, fragile palm leaves guarding ideas against time. Rival traditions adapt. They reform, absorb, and answer challenges, competing not only in doctrine, but in daily life.
Our borders are secure, but the internal threat remains. Commanders, prepare your legions for a decisive move against the dissenters.
At times, patronage turns hostile. Political winds shift, and monasteries learn how vulnerable they can be.
As gifts accumulate, simplicity is tested. Wealth changes institutions, even those founded to escape it.
A language shift widens distance from ordinary people. What was once common speech becomes, again, the domain of specialists.
Then, new invasions push across the plains, movement measured in miles, and in the silence left behind.
From far above, the routes look inevitable. Corridors of trade and war that shape what survives and what is erased. By the late 12th century, great centers stand exposed. Wealth and knowledge become targets in a world ruled by force.
When libraries burn, centuries vanish in hours. What survives is what people can carry.
Buddhism recedes from much of India, yet it does not die. It migrates into new languages, new lands, and new futures. From palace walls to forest paths, from councils to caravans, the message persists.
Across Asia, communities keep the discipline alive, turning daily life into practice, generation after generation.